Warning, this podcast contains blasphemy, heresy, and profanity. Proceed at your own risk.
'Cause I'm exactly where I want to be. Yeah, I'm a sinner through and through. And I'll be waiting in hell for you.
Welcome to the Skeptical Satanists.
Right, welcome to the show, and I've got Kent back on. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Happy to be back.
Stomach issues.
Yeah, a little off today, but
yeah. So I named this episode, we've got Sinking Submersibles, Satan, and Solve Coagula. I thought was a decent title for what I was wanting to get into.
very clever.
We're a little bit past the new news of the submersible, the sub that went down.
Yeah.
But it's still, I guess, is kind of relevant to usually a topic that I get into on here anyways, is the capitalism and the effects of capitalism on the average working class person. I don't know about you, but was your feed just like kind of flooded with shit? Flooded. the sub topic and everything.
It was when I first started seeing it pop up, I thought like, oh no, these poor people, and then it like almost immediately afterwards came out like, oh, they're billionaires, and then it was just all jokes from there. It was wild to watch, because I don't always follow minute to minute. When I'm on, and when I'm not, I'm unhooked.
Right.
And so catching that update, I want to say I found out on, I think it might have been Monday or Tuesday, like after it was already well on its way.
Right.
Yeah. So
I had that initial reaction of like, yeah, this is pretty terrible. You know, people are trapped in there. That would suck to die that way and everything. And then you start finding out more and more details, and it's like I have trouble with like really feeling too awful bad here. Like, you got $500,000 fucking tickets that these people pay for, and they're just.
Sorry, dude, it's happening.
You're good. All right, we will keep going a little bit. Anyways, unfortunately, it looks like Kent's having some issues. The submarine thing, yeah, look at the trees. The submarine looked like a fleshlight. Dude, it's fucking terrible. Like, that whole thing, I was getting all of this shit up on my news feed, and it's like from these liberals that just would not quit with like, oh, well, why don't you guys calm down? Why don't you have any empathy for these people? And it's like, man, they had ample amounts of money to pay and do this shit just for fun. Just like the dick-shaped rocket that all these rich billionaires took into fucking space for just a fun little trip. I mean, that's who was on these submarines and shit, on that submarine. All right, cool. Yeah. You'll have to stop down soon. You'll have to come on sometime soon. But I could drop the link if you want to just stop in. Denver. In fact, if anybody wanted to drop in, they can. Nice. But yeah, that sub, it's like they had all of this money that they tied up in going on this submarine, and they didn't even check into how safe it was or anything. They may as well have taken a tin can down there and had it implode on them. I wanted to get into that some, and maybe Kent will come back and we'll be able to get a little bit more into that, or if Doomver wants to join, I'd be welcome to that as well. There you are, Doomver.
You hear me?
Yeah, can hear you. How's it going? Kent has a touch of food poisoning today, so he warned me that this might happen.
Gotcha. I'll kill some time until he gets back.
Yeah.
Dude, you know that fucking wood burner on my porch?
Yeah.
I found a kitten in it this morning.
Oh, is that the Ashes? That's the thing you named Ashes?
Yep.
Kent.
Oh, he was covered in ashes, literally. Or she, whatever it is.
Yeah. Hey, Kent. You all right?
Much better.
Back?
Got it out of my system. Oh yeah, not fun, but it has to be done, you know.
This is my sibling, Denver.
Nice to meet you, Denver.
This is Kent.
With a T or no?
What's that?
T or no T at the end?
T,
Ken?
yeah.
T?
Kent,
Okay.
with the T, yeah.
Gotcha.
But we were talking about the sub while you were gone a little bit. I was rambling on about it anyway. Just joined in. But yeah, all these rich ass motherfuckers spending $500,000 a pop to go in a fucking tin can to the bottom of the ocean to watch to see a fucking
can full of billionaires. That died.
The irony.
Yeah,
they corner. Like they had the money to buy a rig like James Cameron, or so they could have bought a real submarine. They could have bought a nuclear submarine for as much money as they have, and done it right. But went down there with cameras on 360 degrees and had live streams going. Like they could have done that shit right.
They said that it was only rated to go down. What was it like?
It wasn't.
I heard
they were going
1,400 feet or something.
That's what I was hearing.
Titanic is
like
down
12, 13.
Yeah, and the
Titanic is
down
15,000,
40,000. Something
And
like
it
that. It was a ridiculous amount. Like
it was
it's
crazy.
Close. You wouldn't even be able to see anything.
Like I don't know. I'm not certain about the physical structure of carbon fiber, but I know it's tough for as light as it is. But
it's brittle too. Like the tougher something is.
Yeah, there's a reason the U.S. Navy doesn't make its fucking subs out of carbon fiber, or the SEAL delivery vehicles, the little short, small ones that haul in a SEAL team. They don't make them motherfuckers out of carbon fiber, like something like that, where they would want to cut weight or cut, whatever. Like they don't do that shit. And that's who would be, that would be on the cutting edge of that type of shit, would be the SEALs or some military outfit, like that would be who would be.
Our overly funded military government, system is most likely going to have the best available technology for that. So if you're not doing what they're doing, then you're cutting corners. Like that's just how it is. And
Denver got to play around with that shit.
Not any shit. I wasn't a SEAL or I wasn't a special operator, nothing like that. But I was in the Army and I was in the infantry and I got to fuck around with some shit.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you're able to talk about, or if that's cool to talk. Like the town they had set up for you guys to. I mean, that was on a news thing or something too, right?
Yes, CNN filmed us doing that shit. It was Fort Knox. I'll just be vague about it. I don't think anything was like I don't fucking.
Nobody's
watching. But I wasn't top secretly doing anything there, so I sure as shit wouldn't think it was, you know, I would have thought we'd have got briefed that we weren't supposed to tell anybody, and if CNN was there, I imagine it's okay. But yeah, it was a whole mock-up city built for. We were playing the bad guys for another company of our buddies that we knew, you know, that we were all involved with. And they basically just turned us loose on this town to do whatever the fuck we wanted with, and to rig it to fuck up the other guys as they were coming in. Not, you know, not try to hurt people, but like we were hot wiring cars. We were like ghost riding cars into buildings and shit whenever they came in, like putting like smoke grenades in the cushions of the cars so they'd catch on fire, and like ghost riding them into buildings and shit, like doing some pretty reckless shit. But like it was, that was all training, but you know, it was cool. Like we got the fast rope out of helicopters and do all kinds of fun shit. But yeah, and I did encounter actual SEAL team members at that site, at that complex that we were all at. They were training in a different area than us. They weren't training with us, but they were a part of the giant operation that was happening, because it's all filmed. It was all like there was cameras everywhere. There was like, you know, thermal, night vision, you name it. And it was to watch us, you know, simulate combat and to look for holes in our game and shit, pretty much, I think. And, you know, because there was all after action reviews and who fucked what up and what we aren't allowed to do anymore, and you know, shit like that. But like, it was fun. And I got to see like the big what you call it, with all the gold in it. I didn't get to see the inside of it, but we drove by it every fucking day.
The bunker. The gold bunker.
National Reserve, or is that what it's called? National Reserve?
Yeah, National Reserve.
Yeah, I got to see that. There's like a 24-hour guard in it.
I've known people that were on, like, working construction. I knew people that had worked in those, like, actually building those fucking vaults and shit. And that's some crazy shit too. They have to sign NDAs and all kinds of shit too, to keep from exposing the way that all of the shit. But I guess those things would be impossible to fucking get into. Like, they're, I guess, sealed.
I can't remember what they told us, but they told us some type of dimensions, like on the door, like it was so many feet thick or whatever the fuck it was. Like you'd had the.
It's concrete and steel and fucking rebar and fucking lead.
If you knew what you were doing on that base, you could hijack a tank, shoot that motherfucker with a tank, and get whatever was left in there. But you're going to fucking ruin everything, and you're going to get probably caught and death penalty.
Yeah.
Because you're going to kill. There's a 24-hour guard on there, so you're going to kill them. Like, it's going to be bad news for everybody.
Yeah.
But that base, like, there were armored vehicles and ammo shit right there. Like, if you knew where everything was, you could feasibly try to do it, but I'm sure they would
get drunk, hijack an ostrich, and ride in there and fucking steal the shit.
They'll fucking shoot you with a drone now. You ain't gonna chance.
Right.
I think that was like 1998 or some shit whenever I was down there.
Sorry, that's an inside joke too, Kent. He had got drunk or fucked up with some buddies of his, and they went to an ostrich farm and tried to ride ostriches.
Oh no!
Ostrich farm, and I pretty sure it was an ostrich. I thought it was an ostrich, and it stood up with me on it, threw me off of it, and kicked me. And then my buddies drug me back underneath the. I lucked out because it, like, I think I scared the shit out of it because it was sleeping, and yeah.
More of a fear response than an attack.
Yeah, it was just like, what the fuck, and kicked me, I think. But,
yeah. They're mean birds.
Oh yeah. Yeah, later, whenever I was sober and years down the road, I actually saw just an emu, and I saw its foot, and holy shit, like, just an emu's foot, it looks like they could kick right into you. Like, Like they
Yeah.
could skewer you. Like it's like a 3-prong fucking
Exactly. Just
like a
Talon.
frog gig. Yeah.
Size of your head.
hmm Yeah. Have you seen a cassowary?
Yes, those things are terrifying.
They
Living.
have like a crest, and but it looks like it would be hard, but it's not hard. But they are a wild looking bird.
Did R and Raw have one of those, or was that a
Emu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A
I think
cassowary.
the cassowary is a little smaller than an emu, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I know
they still have huge feet though.
They have the weird like dreadlock feathers. Like they're not.
Yeah.
They're weird, like woolly looking almost, and they have that crest, and it's got like it's vascular. Like I saw Richard Dawkins do a fucking dissection of one that got hit by a car.
Whoa.
Like it was like a BBC series where they would dissect these freshly washed up whales on the beach, or they found this cassowary that was just got hit by a car. So they like did an autopsy on it, and they showed its injuries and what killed it, and the impact of the car broke its ribs, and a piece of its rib went into its lung, or like however it happened. But it was very interesting. And then he went on from that to show how the foot worked, to a certain layer of rock, and then showed the dinosaurs that were the descendants of that fucking bird, and how its foot looked, and how both their feet like basically fit into the tracks, and like it was really
Wow.
But yeah, cassowaries are aggressive too. Like I saw like dude at the zoo has to have like a riot shield to feed it. Like it runs and kicks the shit out of the riot shield and is just a maniac.
So we're selling tickets to cassowaries now to ride them. And
well, what we need to do is get 3 billionaires, 1 cassowary, and a submarine, and put them all in there.
Give them like paper mache armor to fucking put on.
Yeah,
it's experimental.
It's experimental.
We're seeing
it's
how
fine. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. It's an adventure. Try it out.
Whatever that cassowary eats, make that armor out of it. Just put them all in the sub. And don't even let the sub submerge. Just lie to them. Let float.
Sign these ironclad agreements first.
Didn't they like have a fucking PlayStation controller or some shit? And that was like what was actually
Logitech, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even a genuine PlayStation. It was an aftermarket.
I think they found it though. I think they actually found
They did. That was
I don't know if
crazy.
that was bullshit or not. I think they found the actual like controller intact.
Oh, fuck,
yeah, I
don't
meant
know.
to
Survived. I don't know.
I meant to fact check that. I saw it going around too, but I didn't fact check it officially. But I mean, that's pretty. I saw some of the pieces they were pulling out with the crane. I want to say this past earlier this week, and I was like, wow, they got a lot more pieces than I thought. I thought it was going to be a bit more shrapnel. You could see some shape of the actual submersible. So I mean, if the controller survived, I could believe that. It's not too unfathomable, but it's a funny thought that my guess, and from what I heard, because everybody likes to harp on the controller and shit like that, and it is funny. Like, why would you use some sort of it is apparently it's on the Amazon for like $30, and it's like you're building this supposedly high technology machine that you're going to charge all this money to take people on trips in, and you're not going to get high quality equipment. But apparently the failure was in the pressure of the cabin. It wasn't as if they lost control because the controller sucked and they crashed into something or whatever. It was just it wasn't able to withstand the pressure and just snap.
Right.
Bless.
Yeah. I
And
saw
if that's the case, I mean, it's hard to tell which way the fucking air and shit blew out of it. So I guess it could go wherever and however. At that point, there's a possibility that controller could be in the right spot to where it stayed intact, I guess.
what happened was it imploded. It didn't explode. It imploded. So
right,
all those tons of water that's sitting on top of that thing as it's under there all went inside. Like everything, what I mean? Like
That
So they
air
got
and shit has to go somewhere from inside of that thing, is what I'm saying. So it could have been
into a pink paste. Like it's
yeah. Right.
MythBusters did some shit with like a diving bell and a pig carcass and some shit, and like simulated what would happen if you got into a diving accident. And that's basically what happened to them. They would just turn into pink goo, and the fucking fish and crabs will eat them. And
Yep.
all I was going to say is I don't know if that plastic, if can a little plastic controller withstand that pressure? If so, why didn't they make the fucking sub out of the plastic that the fucking controller was?
Yeah, I guess it depends on. I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I did hear some of the scientists talking about it afterwards, and people were asking, "Oh, are we going to find their bodies? Are we going to be able to find their bodies?" And it's like, look, the saying in science, I guess, is like once you get to those levels of pressure, and that type of force hits your body, we're not talking biology anymore. We're not talking splattered, your heart's over there, your brain's over there. We're talking, you turn into physics, is what they were saying. You're not biology anymore. We're down to the fundamentals of physics at that point.
Yeah. I don't have the vocabulary to say what the fuck is happening. You know what I mean? I kind of got a picture in my head of what happened, but like on the molecular level, like they got separated. Like it all got pulled apart.
It's pulverized. Yeah. It's more, if you could think of it like, because one thing about when you compact air, quickly high pressure compaction of air is it heats up. So not only are we talking weight of water pressing together, but we're also talking the heat of those compacted air particles. So it's like an inward, it's an implosion. It's an inward explosion. So they're cooked and pulverized at the same time, within a fraction of a millisecond. And it's just like, just bam. I mean, they were talking like it was something like 6,000 pounds of pressure per square inch was pressing on the outside of that sub. So if you could think of like a hangman's platform where the sudden drop, imagine that was 6,000 pounds in a full circle, and then just pulling the platform away, and just all that pressure comes in, and there was something said like the heat reached
about the controller, by the way.
Wasn't there? Okay, good thing we got a fact checker.
Fucking thing, yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. We got our I know I was just about to call that, but I didn't know if a Joe Rogan reference would be appropriate. I don't care. I don't mind. But
he'll sue me for all of my debt.
Right.
You get negative
against free speech,
Joe Rogan.
Hey, he lost money. Thanks for that. The judge, just for him being an asshole enough to try to sue you, he would award you money, even though you were at wrong or whatever.
You would be famous for being the guy that Joe Rogan's fucking suing or whatever.
It'd be any press is good press kind of situation.
I think
Speaking
so.
of lawsuits, there's TST that has gotten themselves not into another lawsuit. Well, I'm sure they've got plenty of lawsuits and all that shit. They got lawyers constantly working on different cases, but I don't know if you saw that or not, Denny, but the UK, TST's UK, completely stepped down together recently. They all together decided to just quit, and not quit, but like back themselves away from TST and leave that organization altogether. One of the most kind of like unionized groups of fucking people in TST and activist types fucking has backed down. And now just recently, Sober Faction has done the same thing. That was the sobriety group for TST. There's a bunch of weird shit going on, and Lusion was taking pictures with David P. Silverman at the fucking temple. And people were getting pissed about it, and Lusion decided to write out, and I've got like pages of fucking, like a book's worth of pages of shit here of Lusion's fucking Patreon that he has up. You can check it. Anybody can check it as long as he hasn't taken it down. But yeah, instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, I fucked up," I shouldn't have taken pictures with a fucking transphobic fucking nutbag that got kicked out of the Atheist
He did
Alliance.
wild shit. He did wild shit. Was that the one that did the wild shit with Dillahunty's old lady and shit? Or
I don't know about that. I know that. Well,
pretty
it
sure
was with.
he an
Yeah,
American atheist?
he had some. I don't know who it was with, but yeah, he had some kind of sexual abuse allegations and shit against him.
Yeah.
I think it was Beth Presswood. I think.
Yeah.
Or I could be
I don't
wrong. I might be wrong.
Jamie,
But
pull that up.
There was shady shit between those three, I believe, because he was an American atheist, right? That was who
Yeah.
the name was with.
Yeah. Is it Atheist Alliance or American Atheist?
It was American Atheist.
I know
Yeah.
it's the two A's. And I know Aaron Rod, like, I believe he replaced him, didn't he? As the president.
I think he did. That sounds about right.
For a while, at least. I don't think he's currently.
Yeah. Yeah,
president.
it was a temporary a few years
Which
or something like that.
also surprising since, like, Lucian's acting like he has no fucking clue about any of this shit that happened that's been all over the fucking place for 2 decades now. And that David P. Silverman's been on several different podcasts and shit, spreading his bullshit about, like, it's the same shit T-Jump's done and all of that. They're just mimicking David P. Silverman's fucking talking points. It's the same fucking racism doesn't exist. Trans people aren't real kind of shit. Fucking all of that. Yeah.
Well, I remember he
fucking argued that shit
Ireland.
with T-Jump. Did a whole thing. He was like, he's been debating that shit for years now. He debated against Vosh. That was one of the most notable ones where Vosh just fucking tore his ass apart.
Arden got him too.
Yeah. He sucks at debating as far as that goes. Like, I don't think he's a good debater at all.
I believe that.
Arden,
I'm not sure. Arden of Eden was her handle.
Right, she's the trans girl that's hosted on American Atheists or Atheist Experience a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I say a few times. I think she's doing it quite often, actually. So
I believe they've got their own show. They've.
Yeah, I think she's part of that Talk Heathen, the one that
I couldn't
what's his name?
remember
The
which one.
Jimmy Snow, or that's the Line.
She
I
was
get 'em all
on
mixed up.
Atlantic with Katie Morgan or Katie Montgomery,
Mm.
where they would take phone calls from basically transphobes and sometimes people that were just curious and didn't know how to say the right words, But it was a real good. They were performing a service.
So but yeah, that's what's been going on with TST now, and people have been kind of backing what this has been happening for years though, where activists have been stepping away from TST anyways, and it's like they keep tying their hands behind their back to where they can't really do the activism thing the way that they want to and represent TST at the same time. So it's been a hindrance, and people will just step away because of that and form their own group. And that's happened with several different groups. I don't want to name drop a bunch, but like I know Aaron Ra has just been working with the Heretics group, House of Heretics, recently. He's going to be going to a protest with them, and they're doing great things. Like they're protesting these Christian nationalists and shit, and they're representing like equality and all of the right things, and yet these are things that they couldn't really get done under TST. And the way it just keeps fucking looking, it's like, why not, And now like Sober Faction got completely taken over by TST. They have the power to just like, they have a admin power to cut the social media anytime if something gets done wrong that they don't like. I don't think that's anything I can get in trouble for fucking talking about. I doubt.
I wouldn't think.
But
you should have to get on notice before you can't say something. I said you should have to get some kind of legal notice before you can't say something about something.
Yeah.
But like
I just think it's so counter.
I've signed an NDA.
Shit judge of character, like they keep putting these fucking morons in charge of shit. and it keeps backfiring in their face. And it's like, are you being so non-judgmental that it's a hindrance, that you're trying to not, whenever somebody's clearly a fuck up, like, are you?
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, it seems like Lusion, all of these people that actually do make it to the higher ranks of the group, they end up just, it's like a big ego trip, and they're coming out with book sales and shit, and they'll get their names out, and they'll be on fucking Fox News, or they'll be on, and because Lusion went on with Tucker Carlson like twice.
Well, look at that dude. Remember the dude that came over to your place and went fucking nuts or whatever the fuck happened eventually, but he was doing the zombie squad, whatever the fuck, with those crazy ass gun nuts. Do you remember that shit? 'Cause he was like, it's the zombie reaction team or some shit.
Dude. Yeah, that was a while ago.
These fucking like modded up cars with like weird shit on it. But then they were all these Second Amendment dudes with like ARs and fucking shit all, and it's like, what the, do they really think zombies are coming, or like what the fuck is really going on? Because
that dude's out there, and it's like, and this is where
blood splatter.
I can understand. From that standpoint, I can understand why you would need to have a kill switch on things, because when you get nuts like that would come in, you need to have some kind of effective thing there to be able to get them out or keep them from.
That's what I was thinking. Like, how the fuck was he hanging around that long when he was obviously that crazy? Once he got, once he started hanging around us, we were just like, what the fuck is happening?
Well, he kept getting kicked out of all of the groups, though. Like, collectively, there was all of the different local groups, because we're kind of like in between a few different states. He was going around from each state to state, and he was getting kicked out of every fucking one of them. But he had some mental health issues and shit, that like major shit going on, drugs and things. So. But yeah. So let's see. He said this was part of his fucking thing.
Is that
Lusion, yeah. He wrote a fucking thing after TST UK had stepped down all collectively together over a lot of this shit. And he wrote something called Angry Mob Activism. He was referring to like the UK's TST members and all of them from them backing away from this shit as angry mob fucking activism. Which I'd seen somebody make a funny post that said, yeah, it's often, those angry mobs that are trying to get out of the building instead of in. Like,
to me, like, that's just like a basic
ship is a little bit different than an angry mob.
It's basically a slippery slope fallacy, like, because I've heard him say that shit about punching Nazis, right? Oh, you can't punch Nazis. The fuck I can't. Like, you can't, I'm not going to accidentally, if somebody's marching down the street with a fucking armband on and screaming blood and soil and shit, I think I'm safe to punch them in the face. I'm pretty sure I'm hitting a Nazi. Like, they act like that's this slippery slope. Well, you don't know that person ought to know that shit's going to come with consequences.
So Lusion goes in and he starts actually like victimizing himself over this shit. After fucking, he prefaced this shit with like talking about woke. I mean, in the proper context, the beginning doesn't sound that bad, because he's talking about how the idiocy of people that are bringing up the woke thing as like a slur. So, like, he starts out decent in this fucking thing, and then it starts going to shit. Like, he then starts bringing up his fucking things, and he's just doing the same shit. He's like, why, I was being asked, have we consistently refused offers to start a trans right campaign, even as the idea has been suggested again and again. So this has been suggested, and a lot of people that were activists were stepping down because nothing was getting done.
Yeah.
And he follows this up with, the last question struck me as disingenuous or completely uninformed. Yes, people have asked for a trans rights campaign, but to this day, nobody has proposed what such a campaign might look like, which is bullshit. A campaign
That's stupid.
logo, social media page, and teleconferencing meetings. A campaign comes with a plan of action, a legal approach, specific goals. So but the thing is, the executive ministry are the ones that have the fucking legal people there available to fucking give the goddamn, input anyways. So
it would take like an hour to come up with the language. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like for trans rights, which is human fucking rights, so it's equal rights.
How many people have that much fucking money in their back pocket to go down and hire a fucking lawyer to tell them that shit to begin with? It's like
That's what their job is supposed to be in a situation like this. That
right.
If I'm proposing we need to make a movement to address this social issue in the context of our religious umbrella, our religious ideology that we're trying to pocket into the American system here. If that's what you're doing, and somebody proposes you a very salient and widely popular topic that you need to address, you don't turn it away because they didn't figure out every detail for you. That's what you as the activist are doing.
But they can form committees and shit, right? I mean, that's totally a thing that fucking groups do. They form committees for functions to do, like, to get things done. Unions do that shit all the fucking time. You have money coming in, you have a general fund, and then you allot that shit to different committees and different functions, and you put people in charge of those things. So that can totally be done, and they can all get together with the lawyers and shit through that committee and stuff. But are they doing that? No, not really. But Lucian wants to try to flip that around on, like, what? The trans people that have stepped down?
It sounds
people
like
that were activists and stuff?
Sounds like he's trying to muddy the waters and just deflect, just simple bullshit of, like.
Oh, it gets worse. Like, okay, we'll go on, skip down a little bit. But the demand
that they bitch about, like the puberty blockers, like, because if you don't get a kid puberty blockers, they're going to go through fucking puberty twice. They're going to go through
They've actually now, like, I know TST had formed something that was proactive for the trans community, but I don't know what all that entails at this moment. But this was like prior to that, and this has been going on for years now, that they haven't, and now it's like kind of too little too late type of deal. And the thing is, it's not really getting done properly, where each congregation should be getting either funds or should be getting some kind of way of income to sustain these things in each individual state, because every state is different with their laws and legislation and shit, and every one of them has to have a different approach to it. So to sit there and like the abortion thing with the Justice Alito's whatever the fuck goddamn abortion clinic, what good does that do anybody when it's in one fucking state or whatever? Like, there could be so much more being done that isn't being done, and it's because of all the red tape and shit that they keep trying to do. But anyway, going on to this, but the demand that I denounce Silverman struck me as particularly cruel and unnecessary. While it may matter little to anybody that it is cruel to Silverman, I think that the demands that I be forced into denouncing anybody is cruel to me. It's cruel to demand that anybody reform themselves of a non-transgression by denouncing another. It is bizarre to assert that because I had been made aware that Silverman's views on trans rights are bad judgment. In any case, we asked TST members participating in the protest to it's getting off. No, that's the wrong page. Sorry. Rights. Okay. I had been made aware that Silverman's views on trans rights are controversial, and that I was caught in a picture with him. That I should then be obligated to scour his social media looking for those views. Scour his social media. Like his fucking, like it's that hard to find Silverman's fucking views on shit.
Dude,
Like I said,
I'm a fucking mod in YouTube chats, right? When a stranger shows up, I click their fucking name, I go to their fucking page, and I look at the dumb shit on their page, and I see if they're spouting off wild shit. And if they are, I come back and I block them. It's that simple for that fucker to go watch
it's
a
even
YouTube
simpler
video
than
about
that. Whenever
Silverman.
David P. Silverman's he was a higher known, like his name was fucking well known. And he even admits to it. And that's the thing that's fucked up is you can't, at first he admits to knowing about, he doesn't really act like he knows David P. Silverman. Then he goes in and he starts acting like, oh, well, I met David Silverman when he was still head of the American Atheist. So you knew he was a prominent fucking figure in the atheist community. And that was easy enough to fucking find. You knew that he was easy enough to find anything on if you needed to do any like research on him. It wasn't scouring through his personal shit. All it would take is a Google search. That's all
he knew he was an American atheist. That's who he got kicked out of. So if he knew he was an American atheist, he would know he got kicked out of American Atheists for doing some fucking shady shit. So he just lied and told himself.
Yeah. And he goes, if my pictured proximity to Silverman necessitates that I investigate the man with the predetermined understanding that I will denounce him, then I need to be honest about the entirety of the interactions with him and why I thought nothing of being in a picture with him. I met David Silverman when he was still head of the American Atheists. He invited TST to speak at an American Atheist conference. One of the first people to break the ice for us, resisting opposition within his own organization that felt we had no place there. At the conference, he greeted us warmly and was unfailingly accommodating. Sometime later, I heard that Silverman had been booted from American Atheists for, as I understood it, elevating a sexual partner to a board-level position, as well as other accusations of misconduct. The story did not interest me. I did not understand myself as having any continuing relationship to the man, and it all looked like a messy split that anybody would do well to avoid. By the time he came to our headquarters, I assumed he was long retired from public exposure, independent and uninfluential. So it's like,
this sounds like a bunch of excuses. He's shotgun blasting a bunch of excuses like a gish gallop. So you have to run around and be like, well, you're fucking up here, you're fucking up here, you're fucking up here. And just deflecting in the meantime, because he didn't address any of the things that he said. He just kind of whined about it and then waved his hands.
So Kent had to step out, I guess, again.
It just blacked out. I'm pretty sure that's probably what happened.
But anyway, yeah, that shit's been going on lately, and it's like all of this happened at first, and then just recently, the past couple days, Sober Faction stepped down, and they were distributing more activist type things that were appropriate. I mean, it wasn't anything that would be. It was against racism and against fucking like I believe stealing of land and things.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes, I think I don't know exactly, so I can't really say exactly what it is, but I think there was pamphlets about like legislation shit that's been stealing from Native Americans and things like that for ages or whatever, and there might be more happening or whatever the fuck. But it was shit that was definitely not like worthy of just taking over their goddamn social media and shutting them down completely when they're there trying to represent something that's helpful for people that are in recovery. Like, it was ridiculous. But they keep doing this shit. And yeah. I can't get over, though, this thing of like admitting that he knew Silverman, he knew that he had, even if he didn't know about the other shit of him being a transphobe and everything, he admits them knowing about the sexual fucking allegations and shit, and still thought it was a good idea to take a fucking picture with him, and then doubles down on this bullshit and acts like he's a victim and says that it's cruel for everyone to fucking have him fucking apologize like a fucking child. Oh, it's so cruel that you're being so cruel to me about this shit.
It reminds me of like that Bob Price, that he's a biblical historian that, like, he knows his shit about the Bible. He's an atheist, but he's also a bigot, a Trump supporter, a fucking anti-trans everything. Like, he's a fucking moron in that realm. And he does the same shit. Like, if you say something, it's, oh, the woke mob's coming after me and the blah, blah, blah. And he just spouts off right-wing talking points anytime he's cornered. And it sounds like the same shit. He's just spouting off talking points and then demanding an apology, which Dr. Bob does the same bullshit. So,
welcome back, maybe, Kent. Oh, it looks like maybe you're having issues with service or something there.
Am I back right now?
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was my Wi-Fi cut off and it just came back on, so there was probably another hiccup right there.
Got you.
Yeah. I've got a local internet provider that is known for being absolute shit with their service, and there's no other options, so that's fun.
Oh yeah.
Even though we're in like I think the 5th biggest city in California or something like that, 3rd or 5th, and we still only have, I think, well, technically there's like 2 or 3, but as far as the main accessible ones, yeah.
This is also okay. Here's another quote out of here, and I know I'm kind of like bouncing around a bit, but it's like I don't. You can read the whole fucking thing on Patreon if you want. It's fucking long though. He goes in. This was like a page prior, and so despite the work I have been doing for social justice for 10 years now, paranoid vultures circle my every social media post nonstop, looking for any opportunity to construe anything in a negative light, anything to prove that I too am an enemy within. This was prefacing when he was going into this shit that I just talked about. Called people. I mean, that has to be directed towards the UK, I would say, congregation, since they had just stepped down. That paranoid vultures.
It sounds like delusions of grandeur. Like he thinks he's.
But not only that, he's claiming all of this social justice and shit that he's been fighting for 10 years now. He's been a fucking face. He's been a figurehead. He hasn't been anything like, I don't know of anything that he's been doing that's been much more than that. Like,
that's what
for the most part, he even
is.
admits in this shit. He even admits in this shit that he's relying on people's volunteer work to fucking, he's getting his clout and his fame off of people's volunteer work.
Yeah,
and
it's a grandiose narcissism.
Like you can't tell me that if he isn't making money off of going victim. If he isn't making money off of all these fucking the books and the going on to Fox News and the fucking appearances and all that shit, then he's a fucking idiot. But I am not under I don't think for a second that he isn't getting fucking paid for at least some of that shit.
He absolutely is. He absolutely is getting paid.
To sit and act like you aren't getting any fucking money, you're full of fucking shit. Like, that's bullshit. Even if it isn't being paid directly by the Satanic Temple, you are getting it from your fame and shit that you're getting from the volunteers that are putting you in that position. So, like, you're feeding on volunteer work. It may as well be slave labor at this point. You've got people that aren't.
Or
what's that?
Are we talking about Lucian still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a point to his. I have a point to his remark about all these years that I've been doing social justice work, and now they want to jump down my throat for this. And like, to me, that's completely backwards logic, because the way it is if you've been doing this for years and you still don't know how to do it right, then you're just an obstacle in the way and you need to move. Because you're a figurehead for this big movement of social justice. And if you honestly don't see the harm in hosting and making friendly camaraderie with somebody who's a known face of anti-social justice, then you don't understand how the movement works, and you shouldn't be a figurehead for it. You should get the fuck out of the way, or learn and apologize and grow from your mistakes. But
yeah, exactly.
Like, you with the more power, or the more like the higher up you are in an organization, even more so, you should be held accountable. You should be held accountable more so than even the bottom rankings of things. If you're going to put yourself in that hierarchy position of sorts, then you should be being held even more so accountable than the rest. And he's acting like he should be held less accountable, is what it sounds like. Like, it's just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
But,
I don't understand why
also,
it's so difficult.
that also, like, the whole time that I was involved with any of the shit, I couldn't get any financial reports at all. Like, normally any good organization's trying to be clear about their finances and everything, they'll have a financial report yearly or quarterly, usually. Like, even our union that I was in and everything for years, that's how it worked. You had the option, anybody that was a member had the option to show up and like attend these financial reports where they would list out where the money went, where it came from, how much there was, what's in this fund, what's in that one, where's this going, where's that going, and all of that. Well, they've got factions, they've got fucking SatanCon, they've got all of these things that money goes towards, but where's it coming from and how's it getting there and what? Well, they don't fucking talk about it. And anytime I tried to bring this up in any of the fucking groups, I got shut up right away by anybody that was there. It was always just, it's kind of like they've been conned into this thinking that it's an attack directly at them for you to say anything that's like against the organization or something. It's so fucked up, because it was like I would get all of these lists of things that they did that were good, which these people did do some good activism and things while they were in there, but that's like not what I was fucking getting at. That wasn't what I was talking about. That wasn't the answer that I wanted. There wasn't the question that I had asked that I was trying to get an answer for. So it's like you're deflecting and doing all this shit, and it's like I'd just give up and I'd fucking leave. And eventually I just left after asking 2 or 3 times the same fucking question and getting that shit, I just left entirely. Like, you can't run an organization that way successfully. And if you are, there's something fucking going on that isn't right.
Either they think they're going to eventually get their chance to shine and they're going to get their chance to get their hand in the cookie jar. So they're just like, calm down. Pretty soon my turn's coming. I'm going to be able to reach in there and get mine. And then, that's the only thing I can think of, because that's what keeps capitalism going pretty much, is tricking the impoverished into thinking, oh, you're just a bootstrap away from being a millionaire, son. Like
this thing, like, he's like, days later, people were melting down around me. David Silverman, they told me, is a raving transphobe. There were immediate calls for my resignation. I don't know that anybody called. Even if there were a few people asking for him to resign or whatever, that wasn't what they fucking want. Like, an apology probably would have sufficed if he would have just fucking apologized instead of doing this stupid childish shit. Like, it probably wouldn't have blown up into all of what occurred. But this isn't the first time that Lucian's been under heat for being recorded saying stupid shit or whatever in previous things. I don't know if you're familiar with those things that were going around. I remember like years ago, there was shit that was anti-Semitic remarks. And I don't know, I might have went to court and everything. It seems like those have disappeared now from the internet. But there was recordings of him talking in an interview, and maybe it was doctored, maybe it wasn't. I have no fucking clue at this point. It's just weird that this is the second or third time that dumb shit like this has happened, and then all of the other shady shit that's happened, and people are walking away. But he goes on, what was this man a friend of mine? How dare I? Some of the inquiries struck me as bizarre. Did I not have people on staff to vet such appointments for me? Of course not. I do not have anybody, much less a staff, to manage my daily affairs. I don't have that kind of money. TST doesn't have that kind of money. It's all we can do to keep up with the invoices related to our campaigns and legal efforts. That's where
All
I'm
he would need
really.
a work from home assistant that would be like, wait, let me Google David Silverman real quick. And then, oh shit, there's a whole bunch of controversy around him. Don't
Yeah,
do an interview with him, or if you do, bust him out on this, and this, and tell him,
Yeah.
hey, I'm aware of what you're up to, asshole. And then why wouldn't you just, once you found out, instead of digging your heels in and saying, no, fuck you, you owe me an apology, why wouldn't you say, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that he was a dickhead. He
and
is
my
quite
thing is,
clearly a
you
dickhead.
can't, you cannot pretend to be so involved with activism and put yourself out there as this activist the way that he has, and then turn around, double back, and be like, "Oh, but I didn't know."
Mm-hmm.
How do you not fucking know if you've got you are saying that you have your fucking finger on the tap of this shit, and you're on the light, you are intimately involved with this shit, and you don't know that he's been spouting off transphobic shit for
Yeah.
the past 10 years or more? Like, that's ridiculous. And like you said, yeah, all it would take is a fucking apology instead of being a dick. Like,
That's exactly it. Like complaining about he doesn't have staff to vet that, but you have.
I don't have fucking staff, and I was able to find it. Like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. The world starts speaking out.
You wouldn't need a staff. All you would need is one person or yourself. But if he had one person that could be a Patreon supporter of the, like whatever, like, oh, hey, would you mind vetting these, articles for me, or these, whatever? People would probably do it for free because Lucian's asking them to do a thing.
Well,
like he could have used his power that way.
They've been riding the coattails of fucking Aaron Ra all this time now that he's joined. Like, you would think that Lucian would have the fucking... Couldn't he ask him, since he was part of the same fucking group that David P. Silverman was involved with? Like,
yeah.
For fuck's sake.
You know this guy? Should I talk to him or no?
Yeah.
Is he safe?
Yeah. Like a simple bullshit session would have fucking taken care of it seems, or a Google search, like we've been saying.
Yeah.
It boggles. It boggles the mind that, like, with everything going on, I mean, it's clear to everybody. I mean, that's why we have the right wing that's barking at their imaginary demon of the woke army. But all it is a social movement towards taking care of our fellow humans, like giving a shit about people that historically, culturally have not been given a shit about. And you see these grand institutions falling apart because of it, and you think you're immune to that, even if he's not morally convicted to say, okay, the world is telling me I'm dealing with an asshole here, maybe I should back up and distance myself from this asshole. He, instead of taking that simple move, I mean, from that perspective, he could have taken it from a more practical perspective. Even if he thought, well, I shouldn't be upset about talking to this guy, I don't see a fucking problem with that. From a practical standpoint, it hurts the movement. If you know that's what the world is pushing for, then it just makes more sense, even practically. Not even if you're going to consider the moral standpoint of it. Just practically, just fuck it, fuck that one guy. You're not going to lose anybody except that one guy by distancing yourself from that one guy, because he doesn't have much of a following, and the following he does have probably isn't all that interested in TST to begin with, I imagine. But
there's Joel in the chat. Yep, nobody who opposes woke can even explain what it means. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yep.
Glad you made it, Joel.
Yeah. Across the other side of the pond. Yeah.
Is that Joel?
Pearson.
Is that Pearson? Yep. How's it going, man? I haven't talked to you in a while. We used to be in a atheist debate group together. We were moderators and such, and that was probably like 6 or 7 years ago that at least that I left there. I don't know if that's even still going on or not.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, the owner of that recently passed away.
Yeah, Alan. Yeah, that was nuts.
It's a shame.
Jeez.
We all kind of know each other from that group. Then.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember you sent me a friend request. I don't remember the exact situation, but I remember it was after I had accepted somebody else or had some activity on another page. And at first I was really thrown off because I kept misreading your name as Slew Surfer. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I believe it was literally the last call that you and I had that
I've gotten my name misread so many different times. I've had Swiffer, fucking like somebody mistaken it for Swiffer. Yeah.
Oh gosh,
Surfer, Slewfoot.
Sounds like a cryptid. That sounds like a cryptid. Slewfoot.
I thought it was funny. Slucifer, but Slew-suffer. But anyway, a lot of people, don't get that right away.
Yeah, my eyes just kind of surfer. Okay, wait, why? Why does that even? It literally, I'm sure it took me at least a couple years until that last call we had that I finally looked at your name letter by letter and went, oh, it's a pun. Okay. I just thought it was your thing. I thought you were a surfer guy in Idaho, Iowa. Oh my god, gosh.
Oh, no, Ohio has very bad waves.
A red wave?
You can surf off the wake of a coal barge going down the river.
That's true. Could probably do that. Oh, but yeah, and the title that I had with this, with the Solve Coagula in it, that's actually the words that are on Baphomet's arms, if you've ever noticed.
It doesn't have the words on there, but there's a Baphomet.
Yeah,
it's the other version.
It's on, which that's actually in reference to Solve, something becoming solvent, breaking apart, and then Coagula coming back together stronger. Yep.
Oh, god. Like a
scab. Cool. I got a little one too. I don't know if it shows the things on it. Nah, you can't see it. Mine's a little bobblehead.
Yeah, this one. I love this little one.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of ironic, given that they can't understand that that's what's going on right now in TST.
Yep.
And they're the heads of TST.
Well, the problem I have is like I like a lot of times not one-on-one, but I deal with idiots in the chat, or I'll be watching somebody dealing with a Christian apologist, and that's the same way they react when they fuck up. They don't distance themselves from who the fuck they got caught fucking up with. They just excuse, double down, triple down, and then that's what he's doing. And it's like, I've seen dishonest people use those tactics before, so it's just immediate to me, like, oh, you're a turd.
And even, I don't know, from being in Christianity for so long and everything, it is like a knee-jerk reaction that's hard to get out of. So, like, I kind of understand. I still fight that sometimes, but even then, I'll have an epiphany at some point and be like, "Oh yeah, I fucked up there. Like, I should just say I fucked up at this point." Like that.
I've gotten a lot better at that recently. I want to say, because we discussed it in our last episode, that I was raised religious, and there's times when I can almost sympathize with certain people when they get caught having done something bad, especially if it's, this one's more recent, but if it's something that's a little ways past, I can almost understand the resistance to take accountability, because you feel like you've moved on to be someone different since that's happened. And it's like, why should I have to go back and accept accept that accountability for it? But I think a lot of it comes from, at least I don't know where it's coming from in Lucian, but a lot of folks is like kind of the religious dogma of the culture of the sin and be forgiven, and it just, water off the duck's back, and then you move on. And it's like, that's all great in theory, but when we're in a cultural social context, if you've done something shitty and people call it out, you have to address it. You have to accept accountability for it. I was in a group after I left Christianity. I got into a little bit of like earth-based paganistic religions. And while I was involved in that and having a great time with it, I became an atheist. and more specifically, an actual naturalist. So I no longer believed in any of the supernatural spiritual energies that I thought I was communicating or interacting with. But I still really liked the format of the religion and the feeling that it gave me. So I joined. There's a group called atheopaganism that is a pagan practice for people with no supernatural beliefs. It's a pagan flourish, a pagan ritual type thing that doesn't rely on any supernatural beliefs. Anyway, they're very focused on social justice there. And I made a comment. Somebody made a comment about, white people should keep their mouth shut about these issues because it's racist for them to speak up about these things. And I was put off by that. I was like, how in the hell? It's racist of you to say that I can't be involved just because I'm white. You're being racist towards white people. And I got a stern message from the founder, and I got removed from the group. And said, like, basically informing me, like, hey, just so you know, it's impossible for black people to be racist in America. It's not possible. You should look into that and rethink yourself. And in 30 days, if you want to come back and figure, if you figured it out and you want to come back, let me know. And I was indignant. I was like, screw that. I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just calling out them being racist. And then I had to own it and realize when I started looking into it is there's prejudice, which can be racially based. But then there's racism, which is an institutional effect, and it's not something that a minority can affect upon a majority. You can't do it. It's literally not possible. And once I realized that, I went back in the group, I made the apology, and it took me well over a month, though. It was probably 4, 5, 6 months before I finally swallowed my pride on that one. And ever since then, I've just been a lot more open about all these different issues. I used to be a little bit more put off by the idea of trans issues. I used to be more put off by, that would be one of the other large ones. And then I was like politically, the middle ground. I'm not really a Republican. I'm a
libertarian.
Libertarian. I took that path for a minute until I realized how harmful that is to minorities. Minority groups and people at social disadvantages and stuff like that. And then I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm going all the way left. Fuck that. I've just been a lot more open to understanding the different viewpoints since I got the philosophical shit smacked out of me with that racism thing. And that was the final straw where I'm like, all right, I'm opening it up now. I'm going to see where I'm going wrong with it. And I accepted it. I don't understand why somebody in Lucian's position who, their organization has pushed for, gay rights, for religious freedoms, for women's rights, and I believe they even had some activity with indigenous peoples in America. I'm not sure about it. I feel like I remember hearing some supportive activity there. So
I feel like it's kind of the way that the Democratic Party has went with. There's this undercurrent of liberals in that group, and there's liberals and then there's progressives, and there's people that are looking to fight for things and be activists and shit in the group, but then they always get talked down, they get shoved away from the actual party, and the liberals constantly drown them out and try to be like, look at all the things we're doing over here. But it's like, yeah, but what about all that shit that you haven't done yet? But I did this. And it's like, well, yeah, but this over here didn't ever get taken care of, and you've just been ignoring it all this time, and that's not good. Oh, right. Well, what are you, a fucking Republican? What? No, I'm not. I'm trying. And it's like, you never get anywhere with those people, and it always seems to be a certain group that's already, they already don't, they've had money and shit their whole lives, or they've had some sort of privilege about them to where they've never had to fucking have this shit. Like, they've never had to get angry or fight over any fucking thing. Mm-hmm. And it seems like that's the same group that's kind of taken over TST, or that's what it seems like to me. And I don't know if it's libertarians, or I don't know if it's liberals, or I don't know if it's a combination of them, but that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me a lot of that shit. Like, we're kind of on the same side with things, but they're scared to fucking push anything because they think that the smart move is to, oh, well, let's all kind of get along and play nice and do these things together for the greater good. but it never ends up being a greater good in the end. It just ends up you're losing ground. And like I said, we've had that in this country for a long fucking time, I think, and that's how the fascist agendas and shit keep getting pushed further and further, and how the Trumps of the world keep fucking getting into office and stuff. I think that's just as much a part of it as it is the bigots and everything else that are egging it on constantly.
I mean, back to what Kent was saying, I recently learned the same shit about racism. Luckily, it didn't take me quite as long because I was in a live discussion with a black man that broke it down and explained it to me kindly. Not that it ain't just a public service announcement. It's not black people's job to fucking explain to dumb fucks like me why I'm being a dumb fuck. It's not their job at all. But I was lucky enough that someone took their time to explain it to me, and I conceded, oh shit, I'm fucking wrong. And that's all it takes. Like, why the fuck can't, it insinuates to me that Lucian does not think he's wrong because you just say you're fucking wrong. Like, whenever I was wrong, I just said I'm fucking wrong. And, if I see somebody in a chat say fucking black people can too be racist, I will jump right in there and be like, no, the fuck they can't, because this, and this, because that dude set me fucking straight. Like, so,
yeah.
And what I was getting at with saying that was people are on such a fucking spectrum that they may believe 5 of the fucking important things that we've discussed, but that 6th one, that racism that, black people can't be racist, that's the fucking final straw. They cannot fucking overcome that hurdle. They cannot agree that this is a thing. Or, it could be any of them. It could be the trans issue. It could be, But I think and then whenever they get that wedge issue that they're just not going to budge on, then that starts to push them kind of back over. Well, fuck, maybe trans people are, drinking baby's blood, and fucking maybe, this other crazy shit's happening. And then it just seems like it starts to, they get this weird swaying back and forth in their views and what's terrible and what's not. And like, nobody really waits to get an explanation. Most of the transphobes, if not all of them, how many of them talk to trans people? That seems to be a cure for almost anything. If you're a racist piece of shit and you start talking to black people, you'll realize like, oh fuck, I'm a fucking idiot. Or if you're prejudiced against whatever group, if you actually immerse yourself in that group or with a handful of people from that group, you will realize that we're all fucking people, and there's going to be shitty people of all the different groups, and there's going to be good people of all the different groups, and there's going to be in-betweens of all the different groups. So there's not black people are this, white people are this, these people are this, these people are that. No, it's all a giant spectrum, a big fucking conglomerate of humans that have flaws, and they fuck up from time to time.
Right. I mean, that's what it's taken for me. Yeah. If like you said, if you really, it's the thing, like if you really did have questions, or if you really did have like, you couldn't understand something about the trans community, you can ask them. Like you can totally ask them and not be a dick about it. Like that's what I did to learn any fucking thing about that. I'd come to them, actually, like the Discord group for the atheist experience. I went into there and I'm like, look, guys, I'm not trying to be a dick. I don't want any, I'm not, I genuinely have questions because I don't know, I don't understand. And I said, you guys are saying that this is scientific and everything. Can you show me the scientific stuff? And sure as shit, they fucking did. They gave me links to all kinds of shit, and they're like, here. And I'm like, oh, well, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, and had a better fucking understanding of shit whenever I got done. Like, that's
it's a mixture of science and history, just overall having the knowledge, having the education about reality, whether that's current reality, permanent reality, like, you know, the nature of the universe, if we're talking debating somebody with evolution or you know, older age cosmologies, if we're talking to a young earth creationist, or if it's somebody that's opposed to, you know, trans identities and trans healthcare and things like that. Having the knowledge, because a lot of people are like, oh, this is a new wave of thing, like it's just some, you know, social fad that's coming up right now. It's like, no, we can show you examples of trans people in history going well back into the BC years, BC centuries even. I think there was one like 400 BC. I can't remember some. I shouldn't probably put a number out there, but I do remember there were even a few clear examples like of people that made it into the history books from ancient Greece and such that, you know, we have every reason to believe they were probably trans in their culture, you know.
I believe Native Americans here actually had room for like trans identities or like non-binary or something like that.
I know one group of them at least is called the Third Spirit. They call the Third Spirit people.
That's what I was referencing.
Yeah. I don't know if there's other groups or if that's it. But.
You remember, Slew, whenever it's been probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe going on. I used to take the stance of I was pro-trans, but I was against the sports shit, right?
Right.
And it took me a while to overcome that bullshit. You know, I currently don't hold that horseshit belief.
Right.
But it took me a minute to unpack some things in my brain and to figure out. And what honestly did it to me was just the fact that they had a fighter, because it was all like, I was thinking MMA shit. I was thinking, you know, goofy things about gender stereotypes and all kinds of shit.
Still watching Rogan at that time, and he was spouting off that shit. Yeah.
But what I was thinking is those fighters have to sign the contract. There's explicit consent to that fight. You know, those two human beings, no matter what gender construct, role, whatever the fuck, no matter what it is, those two adult humans are signing their names on the contract and saying, I condone whatever the fuck happens to me when I go into the octagon with this other human being. And it doesn't have, you know, like, you're being a bigot if you go beyond that. You know, you're doing extra to be a fuckhead if you're going beyond. Those are two consenting adults that are signing the contract and saying, I want them to punch me in the face and they want me to punch them in the face. And here we go. You know, like, I think there's an honesty to that. You know what I mean? And I think that's, you know, there's a consent there and there's no bullshit, but they add bullshit. They add that the stereotype that's a man hitting a woman. No, motherfucker. And even if it is, that woman thinks she's badass enough to fucking take that. I'm not even going to say that because that's not what it is. Yeah. But you know what I mean? That's two adult humans that signed a fucking contract with each other.
We're all pro face punching here. You want to face punch people and people punch you in the face, sign it and do it.
The thing that eventually won me over on the sports issue was, I guess there were two main waves of information that came at me because I was similar to you. I think I was a little bit more on board with it. And in fact, I'd say I was probably totally on board with it, but I was still thinking like, God, but when it comes to sports, you know, like, is that really fair? You know, like if they've already been through a certain puberty and their body's developed a certain way, you can't undo a lot of that. And then it was me learning that in some sense, for some of that stuff, you can. Like, for instance, if you're a male to female transition, you're a trans woman and you're taking estrogen and other feminizing hormones, you will actually lose muscle mass and muscle strength. That will happen to you. And you will even lose some bone density. So like, say you were in a 250 weight class, you might drop down to like a 180 weight class just on that alone, even if you don't change your training regimen at all. You know, like that can happen over the course of a few years. But aside from that, the other wave of information, or that one was more of a realization from my own life experiences. I mean, I can wrap my hand around my own wrist. A lot of guys can't do that. There are women, I've seen women, heavy lifters, like cis women, heavy lifters out there that, power lifters is what I was looking for. I couldn't fit both hands around their wrist. Probably they're big, they're bulky, they're strong as shit. And to just categorize it as man, woman, you can't do that. Like I mean, I imagine, and I learned that this is true, but at the time I imagined, like, if there's, say, a trans woman who's trying to now get involved in women's sports and they don't meet certain criteria, they're not allowed to enter. And so it's like, it's not just like a carte blanche. Like I'm a woman now, and freaking Dwayne The Rock Johnson walks in. Like it, obviously we know that, and nobody's done that. As far as we know, there's been no recorded examples of an obvious case where a man just wanted to beat up on women or dominate a certain category of sport, and so he claimed to be a woman and joined women's sports. Like there's no recorded incidences of that happening.
The only person I can do it is that Steven Crowder, just to be a troll, he would dress up in like a female and then go to Planet Fitness, be a dickhead and try to go into the shower and try to do, and he was doing it on purpose to be a fucking asshole. And you know, that's the only demonstrations I've ever seen of anything close to it, is somebody being an asshole.
And Joel's right there. There's more variation within the sexes than between the sexes, as the variance between, you know, let's say one extreme body type of males versus another extreme on the, say, more scrawny end or the small frail end of things, you know, like the variance between that is equal, if not greater than between the two sides themselves, you know?
I would assume that that's also a spectrum. I would assume that male is a spectrum and female is a spectrum. And when you dig down in deep there and pick out one of those spectrums, it's probably another spectrum in there, and probably another, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like you just, like with nature, you dig down into the cellular level and start looking, you're like, oh fuck, there's a whole universe inside that thing. And what if I pick one of them little things inside that? Oh shit, that's a whole universe inside the little thing that's inside the little thing that's inside. And I think that's how you go with gender or anything. The more you dig down in it, the more options there are.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
He had, I don't know, I put it up a little while ago, but he had said even the goddess Inanna has a line about trans people. Gonna have to look that up. It's an ancient Mesopotamian goddess of love, war, and fertility. I don't know what reference you got there, Joel. You should have popped in.
While he works on that, I can't remember the name, but there was a Roman empress that, you know, was born male, born identified as male, and found that they were female, and so they were literally presenting themselves as empress instead of emperor during their rule, and they were offering a large sum of money to any surgeons, any doctors that could perform a vaginoplasty. And this was in the early centuries of the Common Era, you know, and that was a person of power in the most powerful nation in the world for many millennia there, or many centuries.
I haven't made it into that book yet. It takes me forever to read a book out, but yeah, that is Francesca.
That's one I've been wanting to read.
Yeah, I've been wanting to. I think I actually have it downloaded, but I haven't gotten to crack it open yet. But I have seen her on podcasts before talking about that book. And
yeah, I've seen her on YouTube on live streams, and she's
her and Candida Moss might have a podcast. Maybe I know she'd been on. She was on with Candida Moss, and I believe Candida Moss was actually interviewing her. A woman doctor in ancient Rome who hid her gender publicly, but was highly requested by women patients.
I can believe that. I saw a funny post actually in a group I'm in. Just I think it was either today or yesterday, but it was talking. They said something about, like, if you go to the Facebook, this is maybe, I don't know, it has a little bit of a degrading element to it, but it says, you know, go to the Facebook group, Women of Walmart, and look at some of the people in there and tell me that, you know, all women look a certain way. Because the spectrum of stereotypically attractive to stereotypically impossible to look at for more than a second. It exists between the male and the females. There's better looking guys, worse looking guys, better looking girls. And so if we're talking like, because there's that common phrase in transphobic rhetoric of, well, we can always tell. No, you can't. You absolutely cannot. I mean, there may be a lot of times you can clock somebody, whatever, but it's honestly probably a lucky guess more often than not, because chances are whatever you see in that trans woman that indicates to you that they are trans, you can find the exact same qualities in a cis woman you would think is trans.
People saying that, I'm sure, have made fun of people for not looking the way that they want that gender to look like or whatever in their idea. So again,
that like, at risk. Yeah. I've gotten girl comments my whole life because I worked with an oil service company, and we had to wear nitrile gloves while dealing with lead. And everybody that I worked with wore extra large gloves, and I wore small to medium. So they were always making fun of my girl hands. And when they ordered new gloves, they're like, "Oh, we got your girl gloves for you." And it's like, all right.
I do both. I got big ass hands, and I can fit them around my wrists. So I'm both.
Well, because you got big hands to get around your wrist. My hands are pretty small. I got like a 5-inch spread from palm to middle finger. My hands are not very big.
Gotcha.
I got rock solid knuckles though. I guess.
And that's the other thing. If you didn't know the gender of somebody or whatever, you would call them they, them. That's how you would refer to somebody just naturally. And it's funny that people make such a big deal out of that whenever it's so dumb. Like, you're doing it anyway, you fucking moron. Like, just do it more. Absolutely. Like, that's all you got to do.
Yeah, if somebody's
funny because
Jesse, you would just say them or they, because you wouldn't know if that's like,
because there is a variance so much too that you don't know by the voice or whatever, or what if it isn't sounding or looking the way that you typically think of that gender or whatever to be, then you're going to refer as they or them when talking about that person if you aren't sure. So it's like, you're.
It's such a thing as the collective individual. Like, if you don't know the specifics of the person, but you're still referring to an individual, that's kind of like the collective individual, where you say like, all right, well, this person left their wallet, and I'm going to go find them real quick so I can give them back their wallet. At no point in that is anybody going to think you're talking about multiple people that own one wallet, and you're going to try to find them all. Like, it's very clear through English that you can use that collective individual as opposed to a collective plural. Like it's so stupid. In a lot of the posts where people are trying to attack that idea, saying like, "Oh, people don't know their grammar." It's like, people don't know what? People don't know their grammar. Like, anyone who uses this, I think they're stupid. Anyone who talks this way, they're an idiot. Like, who is he, she, or they? Like, hold on now. Jeez, idiots.
Well, part of my unmessing up my positions on like stuff like trans and stuff like that, at some point I came to the realization that I didn't care that much. Like, if I was attracted to that person, that's all I gave a fuck about, like. And then
for me, it was like whenever I became comfortable with myself and not really caring too much of trying to base myself on everybody else's, it was like after I had attacked my insecurities and shit, it didn't matter as much. Like, it doesn't matter so much anymore. You don't tend to care about that shit as much, and it doesn't. And Joel says transphobia often comes from homophobia. They're worried that finding a trans woman sexy means they're homosexual, which is I mean,
that's
why else? And why else are you? Why are you worried about somebody else's fucking, like, their sexual organs? Why are you so fucking worried about? Why are you obsessing over that?
If they would just acknowledge that the trans woman is a woman, they're hetero again.
Yeah.
Right? Calling them a man and getting mad because now you're calling yourself gay. Like, you're doing it to yourself. It's like a stop yourself fucking situation. Like,
I was actually it's so funny. I was at somebody's birthday party last week, and their brother was there, and their brother's very homophobic and all transphobic, any phobia there is, and like Joel put there, you know that the transphobia comes from homophobia. It's true because it's all of them. Then they don't want anything, any part. Well, it's just wrong, and that's what this dude was like doing. He kept, oh, this other person we had went to high school with had come out and as gay, and he's like, oh, he's a full blown what I
Slur.
yeah, and
Full-blown slur word. Yeah.
oh, he just gobbles down cock and blah blah blah, like really like just wrenching into it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and he's like, I wouldn't even.
You've thought a lot about this, haven't you?
You don't think that's messed up? And like my friend's like, not really. Like I don't care that much about it. Like I'm not into it, but that's cool if he wants to do it. And that's what I was kind of just saying. I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me any. Like I don't understand why it's that big of a deal. And oh, well, I wouldn't even stand on the porch next to somebody. Me there being.
Surprise.
Doesn't even fucking know. Shakes my hand and everything else, and like, hey, this is fucking. I'm just trying to keep laughing, and I'm looking at Justin. Justin's just like, Justin's like, man, he's like, you know, this is dumb. You're like talking this way in front of your kid and everything. He's like, why are you so obsessed over this shit? And he's like, the dude just keeps like couldn't. Oh, it was just so fucking hilarious though to me. Like I couldn't even get mad because here he is, like acting like he's friends with me and shit. He thinks we're friends, and yet he's on this porch saying he'd never be friends with a person like that. And there he is, not knowing that he's friends with a person like that. That he's trying to describe as.
Yeah. That kind of comes to a thing. I have a saying, or kind of like a mindset. I guess I don't have a carved out saying, but I have a mindset regarding most of those kind of social categories of phobia. If we're talking fat phobia, homophobia, transphobia, I think a lot of that comes into this tendency that humans have to want to put things into clean cut categories, and also the tendency that we have to want to be able to make accurate, low effort predictions about the world we inhabit. So they want to be able to walk into a crowd and go, man, 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 woman, woman, and think, I've got it all figured out. Like that's for sure. Oh, and that guy likes women and that girl likes men. And I know how all this works. So I've got my social, it's a part of our evolutionary history where we want to understand our social settings so we feel more safe. And that is one reason. I mean, when we say something phobia, it doesn't mean the fear version of phobia, but it is often rooted in fear. That term phobia actually means, you know, a resistance to being repelled by or being repelled from that. But it's based in fear because
there were people that we went to high school with that just got ridiculed and shit. And it's like, I feel worse that they felt that they had to hide that shit from people because they were treated that way. Like that should make you feel worse that your friend was treated that way and that they didn't feel comfortable coming out to you because they were always that way. They didn't just turn fucking gay suddenly. They were always that way. They just didn't feel comfortable saying it around you because they knew you were a dick. Yeah. Like that is the real fucking part that sucks. That's what should suck. Not.
Yeah.
I had that happen to me in the Army during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. A lot of people told and got chaptered out of the Army. Several were very, very fucking close friends of mine. And I compartmentalized it as they just wanted out of the Army. They weren't really gay. And then later in life, I realized, oh, fuck, my buddies were gay and they just didn't tell me. And the one dude, I mean, I slept in the same sleeping bag with this man. Like me and him got drunk and slept in the same bed together several times. And like I woke up with him cuddling me, and I never fucking put two and two together and thought this dude's gay and trying to feel me out to see if I'm gay too. I just, whenever I was like, what the fuck, man? He's like, oh, sorry, bro. You know, like it was just like I always, you know, I put my arm around shit when I'm sleeping, and I just bought it, you know, I just didn't. Yeah. But like, it sucks, like you said, because when he got out of the army, and I realized that Adam was gay, and I was too dumb to know. But luckily, I was too dumb to know, so I was never a bigot towards him. So I at least had that going for me, you know. At least I wasn't. And then when all that shit happened, that turned me anti-bigot. That turned me anti-bigot. Whenever that shit happened, I was like, I don't want to be gay now.
The majority of gay people that I've met, interacted with, and everything else, it's always been that they don't act the same way that like straight people would with women, right? Straight dudes with women would be absolute fucking all like persistent, very aggressively that way or whatever. It doesn't seem that way because, like you were saying, it was just the, oh, well, you know, I didn't really mean that. And it wasn't doubling down and being a fucking dick. And it's like, is that what you're really scared of? Is that you're going to get treated the same way that you treat women? Is that what some of these fucking people are like really afraid of? Is that's what you're going to get treated like a woman now?
I think there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers of bigotries stacked on top of each other and compressed down to where I can speak from my personal experience of whenever I was like scared about trans issues, is I was attracted to that trans female. I was attracted to that lady that had the same equipment downstairs as I did, but upstairs she looked very attractive, and I was attracted to that. That disturbed my insecurities, right?
Yeah.
Then that fired up the bigotry. That engaged the bigotry, and then I was like, okay, I have to hate that person. They're the other now because it's tricking me. And I think that kind of speaks to the evolutionary stuff you were saying. Like I was being tricked. I was being deceived in my mind, but I wasn't. You know, I was attracted to a woman that identifies as a woman, and I was insecure about it. I was insecure about what does that make me? What am I now? And like I wasn't even thinking the layers deep of that would make me gay. I am hateful towards gay people. I would be, you know, I didn't go into all of that, but like it was, you know, like that was the roots of getting me out of it though. Yeah. Was identifying that I am attracted to that and that woman, and that, you know, it's okay. It's okay for me to be fucking, and I'm no less of a fucking man, dude, you know, whatever the fuck, than what I was before I fucking said that. It doesn't take away any of my accomplishments in life. It doesn't do any of the shit that you think it does to just be like, yeah, I'm attracted to that woman there, and that woman happens to have a penis, and I'm okay with it. Like,
isn't it almost like they have this idea in their head that like you're going to just be like in dreams, like where you're just not able to punch anything? Like that's suddenly what happens when a person's gay or something, or whenever they're trans or whatever the fuck. It's so dumb to think about whenever you look back at it.
Do you know who Bree from Hive Science is?
No,
I don't know that one.
You have to check her out for one, but she was saying in the chat the other day, it had me laughing my fucking ass off. She said one ounce of trans breast milk is equal to like 7 bottom surgeries or some shit. She told some idiot that in a chat, and I lost it. I was like, that is one of the funniest fucking things I've ever heard. Awesome. But she's got a really good channel. It's like science about animals and bugs and all kinds of shit. Plus, she does like cryptid stuff, and like it's a good time and a good chat and stuff like that. But
that's cool.
Great channel for people if they want to learn more of the science and effective rhetoric regarding the trans facts and also like the trans movement as far as fighting back against transphobia. There's a wonderful channel on YouTube called nominal.naomi, and she's a trans woman herself, and she's big on debating. Yeah, she does. She has a Twitch channel, and she hosts a lot of debates on there. And she debated against the transphobic trans woman. What was her name? Fucking Kelly Cadigan. That she's a transphobic trans woman, kind of like that Blair White. It's bizarre. It was a really hard conversation to listen to, but it was also super enlightening because you just saw the way any sort of counter facts, any sort of counter logic was presented to her. And Naomi does a great job of like, well, what do you think about this? Here's this paper that tells this. Here's this this statistic that proves this. How do you feel about that? The other girl, Kelly, would just brush it aside and like just continue forward with her rhetoric like a blindfolded bulldozer driver. Just like it does. Facts don't matter. They have an ideal and they're just going.
They're on a
script. Crazy too. How the debate bro thing is what people bring up a lot of times anymore. Like debate's gotten this bad name on it. And I don't think that. I hate the way that some of the debates and shit are framed today, to where they are kind of slanted to one side and they aren't done properly. But like proper debates and everything, that was really what brought me around on a lot of issues and everything. If you're looking at it properly, you're looking at the tools they're using and not really the topics so much. You're looking at, are these the right tools to come to a proper conclusion about this topic? Or are they using faulty tools to come to these conclusions? That's how it should be being looked at, and not just this fucking argument. If it's an argument, it isn't a fucking debate. And if you're looking at it that way and it's being done right, then you aren't looking at it right. Like you aren't fucking learning the shit that you should be learning out of it.
Yeah.
Joel said Essence of Thought does a lot of trans information on YouTube as well. I am familiar with that one.
Yeah,
I followed that page a long time ago, but I haven't seen any content in quite a while from that.
You know what? At the White House, when all the right wingers were shitting their pants about there was some girl that showed her tits, like a trans girl.
Yeah.
Pulled her tits out when Biden had just taken a picture with her or something, and there was a trans man behind her with his tits out. In the comments, all the bigots are saying, calling the girl that they would normally call a guy a girl, and the guy that they would normally say was a girl was back there with their fucking tits out, and they didn't give a shit because they had hair on their chest, and like the trans girl's tits looked really fucking good. And I think that hit the same thing I was just saying, that they're attracted to that, and that insecurity kicks in, and it just goes haywire. You don't know what the fuck they're going to do. You're dealing with a possible mass shooter at that point because their dick got hard and it fucking scared the shit.
Yeah.
Nothing more dangerous than a confused boner.
You are correct.
Oh, that's funny.
I think we'll end it there. We're actually coming up on the 2-hour mark, but it's been a great conversation with everything.
Absolutely. I'm going to dip out right now anyway. My phone's about to die. So you guys go ahead and do the closeout, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Hope to have you on again soon. And
I'm sure we'll do another one. Hit me up once you got another topic you think that we could go at.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to add in for?
Well, I mean, I guess because the way my brain works, I put a little thing in the pocket in the back when we first started. I guess right after I came back. It was when we were talking about the sub, and we were talking about how like we kind of lost our empathy for them once we realized the situation, how they knew it was dangerous and yada yada. And we were talking about too, there's so many other options. If you wanted to see close up, high quality images of the Titanic, and really the point is they've got so much money that for them it's not the actual experience of seeing the Titanic that they wanted. They wanted the exclusivity of being able to say I was feet away from it. Like, it doesn't matter. They're not going to see it any better than they would the 3D images that were just made. It has nothing to do with actually wanting to see it and actually experience it in high quality and see it and have that glimpse of it and come to appreciate it like you would think for some monument or something. It's the exclusivity. Nobody else does this. Like, very few people have ever been here, and I'm rich and I got to be here, so I'm going to do it anyway. And it's like, fucking why? What really, other than the exclusivity, did you benefit from that? It's ridiculous.
With that also, my thing was people were getting all worked up over people making fun of this. Comedy has been used throughout history against rich people. It's an art form. And it's one of the few fucking things that rich people can't take away from the working class and from poor people. So why the fuck are you trying to give that to them and say that no, make fun of it. People should be able to make fun of that shit if they're in that position to where they're never going to be that rich asshole that's able to fucking spend all that money on frivolous things like that. They do it to us all the time with fucking bootstrapping and every fucking thing else. They should be able to get a fucking dose of it themselves, and if they can't laugh at themselves, fuck them. I don't know what to tell you. Like, you've got everything else for you.
If nobody's happy when I die, it just means I outlived my enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
and you make enemies of
me and would love to see me die. Somebody does. So that's just life. Like, somebody's gonna laugh when you die.
Yeah. Somebody's
gonna laugh when you're at your worst, and somebody's gonna, shit on you when you're at your best, and vice versa.
Yeah.
With that, it's been good, and I'll have the outro.
Our artwork is by Jamie Coptic. You can check out the rest of their work at jamiecoptic.studio. Our music is by Bridge City Centers, through and through, and you can find them at bridgecitycenters.com. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube, and donate to us at paypal.me/skepticalsatanist. Hate mail, death threats, or fan mail, send that to jesuschristalmighty@hotmail.com, or get a hold of us on Facebook. Whatever you do, don't leave this YouTube channel without liking and subscribing to keep up on all of our content.